Welcome to this episode of Locked In. In this episode, I'm going to be doing my full comprehensive review of the Redshift Sports kitchen sink bar with the loop. So if you've been looking for a gravel bar that literally has every single option or design element in a gravel bar, this video is for you. So please stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't already. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the specs of this bar, the optional upgrades, installation, price, and my final thoughts. So let's get in these specs first. These bars are going to be made out of a 6061 aluminum. They are going to come in a size from 44 to 47 and as well as a 50 centimeter width, and that is going to be at the tops. They all are going to feature a 7-degree back sweep, a 110 millimeter drop, a 20 millimeter of bar rise, and a 25-degree drop bar angle. Now, the reach of these bars is going to vary from 70 millimeters in the 44 size down to 65 millimeters in the 50 size. As well as the drop width is obviously going to increase 55 centimeters all the way up to 61 centimeters. And you can get this bar with or without the loop. And obviously my test unit was one with the loop, and I did test the 44 centimeter width bar. As far as the weight goes, without the loop, you're going to start at 362 grams and go all the way up to 382 grams. And with the loop, it's going to be 472 grams all the way up to 497 grams. So as you can see there, it's about a 90 gram increase when adding the loop onto this bar. And they all feature a 31/8 clamp. So now let's get on to the options that you can get with this bar. And all of these things can be used on other bars. So if this is something that you're seeing and you're like, hey, that might work on the bars I currently own, you can definitely try it out, see how it works, and if it doesn't, you can always order the kitchen sink and know that they'll work perfectly for them. So first off, let's talk about the really long bar tape. And that, as it states, is just really long bar tape. It's basically designed to be used with this bar because you obviously have the loop integrated into it, and to have one seamless piece of tape running from the drops all the way up there is going to be something that is going to be difficult, basically impossible with any standard length of bar tape. I used a section of tape in this initial footage that was used but was a uncut piece of bar tape I used on a 46 width bar, and it was definitely not long enough to wrap the loop. So that's going to be something that if you are going to be using these bars, I definitely highly would recommend picking up regardless of the setup that we'll be getting into later. So then you're going to have your two grip options, which you can get into a combo kit or you can get them separately. It's going to be the top grips, or I like to call them pads, but essentially what that's going to do is add a really ergonomic shape to the tops of your bars. Now the pads or grips are going to come at a very wide width that are going to work with their 50 centimeter bars, and you can cut them down and size them down to fit down to the 44 or anything in between. So this is going to basically give you a ergonomic top section to put your hands at when you're riding on the tops, to give you more surface area with the bar tape on there so you don't potentially slip off the bar, and just add more comfort. Then you're going to have your drop bar grips. That's going to basically slide on the end of your drop bars and give you a really controlled thick grip to grip onto, so that your thumb basically rests against in that pocket, and the ergonomic palm section is going to rest against your palm so that you have nice even pressure across your hands and you're not squeezing a small cylindrical shape like you normally would on a drop bar, so that you have added control, especially when riding off-road and in gravel, so that your bar doesn't slip out of your hands potentially when riding. And that's going to lead me into installation. So installing these bars is going to go forward like any other bar install. You're simply going to take off your old bars, put these on, and then sit there and play with the drop bar angle and shift position as well as shift angle. I typically like to take that in the neighborhood and basically kind of ride around and fine tune those, bringing my 5 Newton meter torque tool with me to adjust my drop bar angle first, then go on to the shifters. Once those are all done, you could essentially wrap the bar and be done if that's all you want to do. If you want to install the other grips, you're then going to go into the top grips, putting those on, and then basically using the double-sided tape to initially line those up. Redshift does a great job of marking all their bars, so it's really easy to mimic left to right. Once you set the pad angle on the tops, you're then going to tape it with the provided tape in the kit, and then mimic that angle on the other side and position. You're going to need to cut those grips down depending on what width of bar you're going to be running. This is by no means a tutorial. If you want to see how to install both these grips and the tape itself, check the links in the description below to see the YouTube channel that they have and the tutorials they have produced. After that, you then need to decide if you're going to run the drop grips. If you are, you're going to start taping the bars at the line provided on the drops, since the grips are going to basically cover most of the end of the drop bar. So then you're going to be taping that tape, and in this footage I was using some older tape for the initial setup, but you can use obviously their really long bar tape, and this is when you would use it. Then you're going to tape your bars like normal over the pads, and then to the loop, and then decide if you want to wrap the loop. And that's definitely something you can decide to do for yourself. Their tape is long enough to wrap this entire section and all the way to the top of the loop. So you can fully cover it or leave some exposed. That's all up to you, but don't worry, you have enough bar tape to do so. Then you're simply going to slide the grips on and then go up for another ride to adjust the grip angle, since those grips do have a bolt to cinch them down so that they are set to the angle that you like for your riding position. Then you're all set to go and go enjoy it. So now let's get into price. Price for these bars is going to be $99.99 for the bar without the loop, no matter what width you get. Then it's going to be an additional $30 if you want to add the loop to $129.99. And if you want to get the drop grips together in a combo kit, that's going to be $54.99, but you can order them separately. And lastly, the really long bar tape is going to be $39.99. So that's going to lead me into my final thoughts. Based on the comments I got on some previous videos where I mentioned kind of installing these bars, I want to get into, do I like the bars? Who do I see them for? And what were my thoughts on the grips themselves? So did I like the bars? Yes, I actually mentioned in that video too, I really liked just the natural shape. So if you got these bars and you didn't have the extra money to get the extra grips, I think you could totally be fine with it and upgrade later, maybe when your bar tape wears out and you want to just add some nuance to your bike. So I definitely like the overall shape of it. Using the hoop, that was something that I had to always tell myself to use because I just never really had a TT style setup on my bike or gravel bike in general. But if that's something you currently have and you're interested in simplifying your system, I could see that being a great add-on feature or great feature for these bars to have because it's just simpler. Now, if you're gonna run regular bar tape, will it wrap the hoop if you don't have any grips on it? I don't think so. I think you might get to the base of the hoop, but I probably wouldn't wrap all the way up to it, especially in the wider widths. So I would still recommend getting the really long bar tape regardless of the setup that you go with. But overall, having the rise to the bar was kind of nice if you wanted a more upright position. The back sweep was great to be in a more neutral position for my wrists when riding on the tops. And overall, I had a great experience with it. But I am going to say if you want to ride the loop on gravel, definitely pair this with a suspension stem like the Redshift Sports Shock Stop stem, which I have a review for and a link in the description below, because it does smooth it out and give you a lot more confidence when riding on the loop when you're not on road. So who do I think this bar is for? I think this is for a rider who's going to be doing a lot of road or flat gravel riding that is looking into buying TT add-ons or a add-on extension like the RideFar extension that I've reviewed on this channel. But the benefit to this system being integrated and being a one-piece setup is there's nothing to move around or have to tighten or that can get loose because it's part of the bar. So if that's something you're interested in doing, I think this is a great solution, but I definitely would add on the top pads just to give yourself some more surface area if you do tend to rest your forearms on the tops of the bars when using the loop. It's just going to give you more surface area so that more of your body is touching it. So if you're sweaty, you're less likely to slip off the front. So if you were interested in doing that kind of setup, I think this bar is a great option for you, and especially being so far out front, which is about 150 millimeters out front, you can still run your computer in the loop and a headlight out front and have a lot more mounting options, and keeping that light out front means it'll clear any bike packing bags that you may have as well. So lastly, did I like the grips and which would I choose if I had to choose one? I did like both of the grips. They both make sense. If I had to choose one, I'd probably go with the top pads just because those would kind of work, I think, with pretty much any handlebar as long as they're round. And it does add a nice amount of surface area to make that more comfortable when you're riding. The drop grips are great, but because they are farther back, you basically have to commit to that position being in the drops and kind of barreling through whatever you're riding, because I couldn't reach the brake levers and be in the grips because they're so far down. If I wanted that position, I'd probably have to cut the bars and move the grips forward, but I did enjoy it because it basically gave me the confidence that my hands wouldn't potentially slip if I wasn't wearing gloves, let's say on some gravel, because you have so much more surface area to grip onto. So I did like them, but I definitely would choose the tops over the bottoms if I had a choice. So that's what I think. Put in the comments below if you've been interested in this bar, if you currently have it, and what your thoughts are. I love reading my comments. I check them every single day. As well as you can, turn notifications on so you can see any of the other reviews that I put out on this channel, as well as other videos. And subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, as well as support the channel via my Spreadshirt or my Pateron, where I offer one-on-one cycling consultations about anything bike related every single month for my top 2 tier levels. And lastly, thanks for watching this episode of Locked In.
Let's get locked in.